Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of the TGT podcast, where I'm joined by a host of fantastic guests to break down Arsenal's latest match. And today, well, what a match we've got to talk about. It's been a couple of days. We've been able to reflect, to refresh, to calm down, and then get probably a little bit more excited again. I mean, you may not have even come down at this point. You may have been on a high this entire time, like I know many of you would have done, but I can't wait to get stuck into things, get your thoughts on our live chat, and talk to our fantastic people. Okay, I'm joined by three fantastic guests. First off, it's the man that knows no amount about in terms of t-shirts. It's John. How you doing, mate?
Good. Thanks for having me.
So, are you a misfit every day, or just like when Arsenal are playing, or?
Yeah, to both of those, I guess. Yeah. No, look, it's a band. I like them. But look, it's pretty good. This is gonna be a happy podcast. I'm guessing. I was over the moon over this win. I really didn't expect it that much. I kind of had like hopeful optimism, but you, as Arsenal fans, we know how it is. Although with cup finals, especially the FA Cup, were pretty good. So I don't know what I was worried about. Probably just because the season was so bad. But look, ended well, so can't complain.
It did, yeah. It ended rather nicely. It was kind of sense of vindication and feeling of we deserve this after quite a long time of suffering this year. Raph, it's good to have you back on, mate. It's been a little while.
It has indeed. Thanks for having me. Yeah, but
no problem.
Under these great circumstances as well.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, I'm buzzing, man.
It's going to be a pleasure to speak about all of it for sure. And finally, making up our panel is Adam. How you doing, fella?
I'm good. I'm really, really good. And am I the only one?
No, you're not the only one. I mean, you may have seen your little thing. I mean, I've got a little bit of gin because I'm a bit of a gym man. Got my lone wolf right here. So to enjoy it. Raph, did you get the memo or did we forget?
Nah, I forgot. Sorry. I don't drink anyway, so.
Oh, that's fair enough. I mean, Jono's during work hours, so it'd be wrong of him to pick up a drink. So that's fair enough. So me and Adam will hold down the fort in that sense. That's fine. So, and to be fair, Adam, I should say on social media the other day, I saw a nice video of you summing up Arsenal's season. Do you want to give a little bit of insight to those that haven't seen that?
Yeah, it was a video of me eating a plate of rice and chicken. And just as I went for one of the final mouthfuls, I dropped my spoon and the song in the background said, "You should have known better." And it just all seemed to really fit really well. They all fall apart. And then, I wasn't able to finish my meal. Typical.
Yeah, it was kind of poetic and metaphorical at the time for Arsenal's season, but yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. But thankfully, it doesn't sum up Arsenal's season as much now because things have changed, which we're very thankful about. I'm going to start with you, Adam. My initial question is just about how surprised with you, how buzzing with you, and how did you celebrate the win?
Surprised, not that much, I have to admit. Because I think outwardly, in all the previews that I had done, I was saying that I think Chelsea would nick it purely because I think they had a bit more quality throughout their team. But I did think it was going to be a game that had a lot of chances. I did think it was going to be a high-scoring game. I think I was proved wrong in that sense. But I think all in all, Arsenal had a chance, as you've seen. I don't think anyone could really say that we didn't deserve it. Yes, we got some fortuitous refereeing decisions. Yes, I do think that it's unlucky that, Chelsea had quite a few injuries, but the game is the game, man. You got to do what you got to do. For ages, Arsenal been screaming about injuries and everyone's told us to shut up. So I'm not hearing anyone else's excuses now. I celebrated, though, by going to my friend's engagement and birthday party. So I didn't get to go as crazy because mums and uncles and aunties were there, so I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Boundaries boundaries in place. Raph, similar question. How amazing was you to sort of witness that win? What did you do? Where were you watching it, and what was going on after you celebrated?
Funny enough, I watched the second half at my best friend had his birthday. So we went out for his birthday, and I was literally just in the corner, just watching it on my phone while everyone was celebrating. And it was like I said I would come before the semi-final. So it was like I'll be honest, I kind of didn't think we were gonna get through against City. So I said, "Oh yeah, it's fine. Nothing's going on that day anyway." Obviously, it gets to the final now, so I've had to watch it. But I wouldn't say surprised, but I thought Chelsea were going to win. I just didn't have any expectations of it was like I was kind of indifferent. Obviously, on our day, we can beat anyone. And when you actually watch the game and you look at it player for player, I don't think Chelsea are actually like, it sounds weird, but better than us. Obviously, the table doesn't lie, but I don't think that they're just hugely better than us and they're just some amazing thing. I think they've played really well this season, and I think Lampard's done a great job over the course of the season. But when you look at the teams, on our day, we can more than match them, and I think we showed that. So I was surprised that we pulled it all together, but I wasn't surprised in that we were capable of doing so. So yeah, and then obviously once the game was done, I could celebrate with my mates.
Yeah, lovely stuff. I mean, I was a similar situation where I had a birthday thing going on as well, and we were dragged away. Dragged away is probably the wrong term, but there was a nice Kentish countryside. There's a lot of people who watched the vlog yesterday that went out. I was in quite a nice area of England, down in Kent, and I was surrounded by Charlton fans, but I certainly got to enjoy the game. They haven't had the best of seasons, it's fair to say, having been relegated from the Championship, but I certainly got to enjoy my afternoon. One of the guys in there was back in Chelsea, which was even more nice and satisfactory to get one over on them as well and celebrate like crazy. But yeah, it was very nice. Unfortunately, I didn't get to celebrate as hard as I may have done surrounded by Arsenal fans. I saw our good friend Lee Judges and a lot of the others over in the pubs around London, and obviously at the Box Park as well. But yeah, John, talk me through your day. I listened back to your podcast with Claire, obviously your best guest by far, to come on and talk about all those sorts of things. So it was great to listen to that. But how did you celebrate the game, and what are your thoughts on everything?
Yeah. So first of all, Claire's great. Yeah, you nailed that. But in terms of what I was doing, I was actually with a friend of mine who lives like right down the street. He's actually a Liverpool fan. And we were yeah, no, but he used to play like semi-professional as well. So it's always good to watch a match with him. He's got really good insight into it. And we were just, hanging out and drinking. And I remember, it started off, we're both screaming because I supported Arsenal. He didn't want Chelsea to win. He kind of liked the narrative of the whole Arsenal season and what it would mean to us if we won. So he was kind of supporting with me. So it was kind of good, even though he's a Liverpool fan. He was kind of rooting on Arsenal a little bit, which was made it a little bit easier to kind of deal with. And what was fun was when all of the stuff started going extremely awry for Chelsea, all the injuries. Because I recall just like looking at him going, is this actually happening right now? It's like 70 minutes. Like they just got a red card. We just got a penalty. What's going on here? Like we're going to actually win here. Like this is something that's going to happen. And then he kept saying like, you guys are going to win. I'm going like, stop talking right now. The game is not over. They have not blown the final whistle. You shut your mouth. And look, we won, and we just drank for the rest of the day. So that was, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a perfect story. When you can drink for the rest of the day or just enjoy your afternoon after a nice performance, especially in a cup final, it's definitely a great way to go through a Saturday. Adam, let's focus into a little bit more on the game then itself. He decided to go with the exact same lineup, bar, of course, Holding and Mustafi being swapped around due to injury from the Man City game. Were you expecting, or were you shocked at that, or were you made any? I mean, obviously, in the benefit of hindsight, is easy to go, well, he got it spot on. But were you surprised at the time that he made those choices?
I think the only omission that kind of stood out to me was Xhaka. I was expecting him to start, but I wasn't mad that Ainsley Maitland-Niles taking his place. And looking at how we've played, because when we have the ball and when we're on the front foot, the left wing back doesn't stay in that position. We usually go to like a back four, and then that extra left wing back goes into midfield. So to me, it was an extra body, and Maitland-Niles considers himself to be a central midfielder anyway, so I didn't think that was too much of a problem. I think I have to admit, that has to be the best game I've ever seen Pepe play in an Arsenal shirt. And someone said something very interesting to me, which was, if we paid £72 million for Pepe to turn up in the big games and deliver clutch performances, they think that's money well spent, and they'll take the subpar performances that he's had for the rest of the season, which I'm not sure if I agree with totally, but considering how well he played on Saturday, again, I'm not even too sure if I can disagree with that. But I was all round, I think it was a very good team performance. And I have to give a special shout out to David Luiz, because I think he did the simple things very well as well. Something that we've all criticized him for at some point. And Hector Bellerin too, because I think he played really well.
Yeah, I love the David Luiz point. I saw an amazing tweet, and of course, towards the end of this, we'll start looking ahead to the new season, and we can't really do that without talking about the new Willian situation that's going on. But I saw an amazing tweet from a Chelsea fan that was basically saying that you're taking our garbage, and someone replied to that with a picture of David Luiz holding the FA Cup trophy, saying, "We take your garbage and we beat you with it." So it was a wonderful tweet to see that, wonderfully summed up in that sense. I definitely enjoyed that man's performance. Not only in that, but in the FA Cup semi-final as well against Man City. And obviously we know what this guy is about in terms of the mistakes that he's made. He now holds the Premier League record for the amount of penalties given away in one season. But for me, for £8 million, if you're going to sharpen the two most important games of the whole season, I'm okay with that in a way. So for me, it's strange though, Raph, because I've seen it, and I was speaking to some of the guys on the radio this morning about this, about the FA Cup, and about how other fans have perceived this competition, and in a way, I feel like it's trying to be downplayed. Do you think there's an element of that happening just because it's Arsenal that have won it, or do you think there's now beginning a shift of big teams, supposedly in air quotes, moving away from this competition as a genuine source of a top tier trophy?
I think 1,000,000% it's because it's Arsenal. I think, and I've spoke about this with a couple of my friends. Don't you think it's interesting how the narrative has shifted from the whole top four thing? Like when Wenger was here, it was Arsenal. All you care about is top four. Top four is not a trophy. It's about winning stuff. I remember Tottenham fans that used to get onto us about winning, and they had only won the League Cup in 2008. That's the only thing that they won for like since 94 or something. And it was like, but we've won a trophy. Now, all of a sudden, we've won, four FA Cups in like 7 years. And now, all of a sudden, the FA Cup doesn't mean as much, and top four is the most important. I just think sometimes, especially with Arsenal, and it might just be because we're all like, a lot of us are from London, and Man United, most of their fans are from London, and Chelsea fans are from London, and Tottenham fans, so we have that rivalry, and it's anything to use to banter us. But the reality is, a trophy is a trophy. Like, yeah, the best players want to play in the Champions League. That's obvious. It's something that we need to aspire to. And obviously, we know that our season hasn't been amazing. But when you look at the players and how they responded to winning the trophy, you can't tell me that doesn't matter. You can't tell me once you're there, especially with Chelsea fans, once you're there, you can't tell me that you didn't want to win it. So I think that it's an easy stick to beat Arsenal with at this moment because our league form wasn't amazing. But if you gave me the choice, I'm always going to want to win a trophy other than finish in a respectable league position. I understand the premise for some teams only in the fact that, it may allow them to build. But then if they don't build, then what happens then? So, I just think it's easy to say when you don't win it that it's it don't matter anymore. But the FA Cup's the biggest domestic cup competition in the world. I'll be happy to win it. Yeah,
it's a coping mechanism is probably the best way of describing it for teams that don't win it. And to be honest, and what John was saying earlier, hanging out with a Liverpool fan, I've not seen my Liverpool mates or people I follow on Twitter that Liverpool fans or Manchester City fans have, of course, won the League Cup, still in the Champions League this season. I've not seen them being salty. it's been the United fans and the Chelsea fans and the Spurs fans that so far this season have not yet won a trophy. And it must be some form of coping. I'd love to, don't get me wrong, I'd speak to him a couple of times with good old Mark Goldbridge. I loved the video that came out about him talking with on the Norwich game with Man United Norwich, where he's saying there's no chance that Arsenal win the FA Cup this season. It was pure bliss watching that back now. And it does sort of make you wonder. And of course, all of us who come onto these very public shows and do this, it makes you feel that a little bit more conscious about maybe what you say when you're going out onto the airwaves. John, focusing again on the game and some of the key performances this season, Danny Ceballos, there was a question earlier on in the chat, which I'm going to highlight when I find it, but someone asked the question, has he been the best loan signing that we've ever had? Daniel Robert asked that. Can you think of a better loan signing that Arsenal had? Because this season, he's been unreal. The mentality's been there. The way, I mean, even before the game, I saw a tweet from him come out saying he's going to fight for the final. And obviously, when it came out afterwards, he seems happy to possibly extend that stay. But is he arguably the best loan signing Arsenal ever had? I see Adam's thinking intently, but John, let me know what you think, son.
Arguably, I mean, anything is arguable, right? But whether it has more merit
from our WhatsApp group,
right? Whether anything has more merit, I think that there's a good case to be made that he's the greatest loan signing we've made in the modern era, at least in the last, I would say, 10 years. I can't think of a better, more impactful loan signing that we've had. When you look at what Ceballos has done, especially after the break, and I think that is a smaller sample size, just given the fact that there weren't as many games from the break until now. But when you consider the performance that he's had since the coronavirus stopped the Premier League, up until that cup final performance that he had, which was absolutely incredible. And considering it's an area of the pitch that we needed some kind of an engine ever since we lost Aaron Ramsey, who I think was that engine in the midfield that allowed that Ceballos came and kind of took that role over, although it's a little bit different than what Ramsey did, admittedly. So when you look at what we've had in the past, I can't really think of any that's been better. So I think that there's a good argument to be made that at least in the recent, I would say, last 5-10 years, he's the best loan signing that we have, which is interesting if you consider it. I mean, you look at ones that Emery made or during the Emery era. I mean, there was nothing really, and you look at even before then, even in the later Wenger era, there was nothing that was really.
The only ones that have been brought up are Yossi Benayoun. I've seen. I quite liked Benayoun when
he was good. And I was thinking about him, but I mean, if you're comparing him to Ceballos, I mean, there's no way. I mean, and here's the thing: here's an interesting question. If we don't win that FA Cup, do we have the same opinion as Ceballos in terms of his impact on the season? And now is he all of a sudden? I know it's something that you don't want to think about, but I think that I think you would as well, and that's important because you look at it like is my opinion of how Ceballos has performed this season colored by the fact that he helped us win an FA Cup? Yes, to an extent, but if I take that away, I still see an amazing performance, especially after as we return from the break. So yeah, I think he has to be up there, if not the best loan signing that we've had in modern history.
Go on, Adam.
I think Julio.
I was thinking.
Oh, sorry.
Thierry Henry. Sorry.
Go on, Adam. Oh, sorry.
No, go on, sir.
That's being rude.
Wait, did he say Henry? Did he say Thierry Henry?
Either Thierry Henry just for nostalgia purposes.
Oh, come on. That doesn't count.
Julio Baptista.
Yeah. I mean, Henry's an outlier, isn't it?
Pretty good.
You can't beat that Leeds goal. It's just like that was unbelievable.
But are we really counting that though? Are we really going to count that?
Yeah, of course we counted it.
All right, then in that case, there's never gonna be a better loan signing than Thierry Henry ever. It doesn't matter. I agree. I go with that. We could loan Ronaldo or whatever here, and it doesn't matter because Henry is going to be the best. Because there's never going to be another moment like that Leeds match. So if that's the criteria, then yes, Thierry Henry is the greatest loan signing we've ever had.
It is tough, isn't it, to try and think of something as a moment in terms of like a lone moment. You can't be, but across a whole season, I think that you can. I think it's very, very right to say that Ceballos is probably been, which is weird because when you consider he had that one game against Burnley right at the start of the season where he was fire, and then after that he just kind of declined into mediocrity, which I suppose was mainly down to Unai Emery's influence on the side at that time, coming to the end of his period. Then he got injured, and then when he came back from injury, he couldn't even get into Arteta's team at the start of the time that Arteta came in. And then when he gradually did get into it, and then we had the break for COVID, and since Project Restart has been fitted into this midfield too of him and Granit Xhaka. And I mean, Adam, Granit Xhaka is just... I don't really quite understand the journey this guy's gone on this season. He's gone from an explosion, as I wrote in one of the articles this week, against Crystal Palace, which was swearing at the fans, jeering about, like I can't imagine anyone else doing that, to go from that to the point where I was even saying I don't think he should play in an Arsenal shirt again, to the redemption story that we've seen him been driving on, and under Arteta has become such an influential player. And you look at the Aston Villa game where he didn't start and we lost that game, and it seems now that he's so integral to what Arteta wants us to do that he seems to be someone that, even into next season, were we to sign a Thomas Partey, for instance, in midfield, that Xhaka still needs to be playing in this team. What are your thoughts around the Swiss guy?
Like I've said before, genuinely, there are so many Arsenal fans that owe me an apology, because there were times when I was the only man who was saying,
I wouldn't say only.
Oh, you guys were not. Sorry, I didn't know you guys were.
I was on a group chat, and I was literally the only one constantly. Every time Xhaka misplaced a pass, they would tag me in the chat and be like, "What now? Would you still think?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like, it's just not the right system. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
It's fine. I'm happy, because at least it makes me feel like I wasn't going crazy, because I did at many points feel as though I was a madman. People are saying that he should have been sold, saying that we should have got Kante instead. It's an embarrassment that we signed him in the same window and Kante went for so cheap. And I'm thinking, they're not the same player. Am I the only one that can see this? And so now I feel so vindicated to see that Granit Xhaka is finally playing in a system that allows him to look good and performing. And I think he's quietly and subtly gone about his business, which I think is great. He's been dictating play. He's been doing the dirty work that a lot of people have said that he hasn't done or he can't do. What I like also is that these rash challenges that we used to see from him seem to have gone from his game. I don't want to talk too much, because I'm sure the next game he plays will get a red card, but I haven't seen him do one, I can't think, since maybe the Tottenham game. And it's just really good to see. And I, as you say, I think even if we get Partey, I do believe that Xhaka still has a place in this team. And I look forward to how much better he can get with Arteta coaching him.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for that. A lot of people have changed their minds. I mean, there's a lot of people in the chat I can see that kind of changed when we were talking about after the Crystal Palace game, that he's done, it's over, he has to leave, we have to sell him. We would be in link with a move to Berlin in January, if we think of the way back to then. And it's amazing now how it's changed, and people are really getting behind the guy, and I love that about it. And I love the fact that if you look at him as a character, imagine being in his position, where he's probably looked back at what he did and thought, bloody hell, I've really cocked up here, basically, by doing what he did in the Crystal Palace game, and thinking, how on earth am I going to come back? But he's been given that second chance by not just Freddie Ljungberg when he took over, but also Mikel Arteta. And there's, in a way, I love the fact that even the players clearly are behind him. They give him the armband during fixtures when obviously Aubameyang goes off. I think that's a really big, I think it's understated really how big of a moment that is to see Aubameyang give Xhaka the captaincy, to show that camaraderie between the players and just sort of the sportsmanship they have between each other. That's amazing. There are still people that I've seen have a lot of criticisms, and I'm not saying they're not well-founded in some areas. There was a moment in the final where he had his pocket picked, and that led to a really clear chance by Chelsea right at the start of the first half. And that is still in his game in elements, but I feel like that is a much smaller part of his game than it possibly used to be, and he's taken on such a bigger responsibility. Raph, have your say on Xhaka, but also sort of looking into the defensive side of things as a whole. I've seen a lot of people say that Arteta hasn't improved us defensively, and that we're still conceding the same amount of shots that we're not conceding any less goals. There's lots of stats I feel to disprove that, but I still see a lot of people saying that he's not improved in that area. So on Xhaka and on the defense as a whole, how are you feeling?
I was definitely a Xhaka out person. I think mainly because of the disrespect that he showed to the fans, and I get it. And obviously, when you hear him speak about the whole, I don't know, death threats or threats on his family and disparaging comments, maybe like semi-racial comment, like all of those things, I can understand why maybe he boiled over and boiled out of control a little bit. And obviously, the whole situation with Emery in general, I think Emery completely lost control. But if you look at Xhaka, the start of the season, I know it was quoted that Emery didn't even want to necessarily give him the captaincy, but they done a vote and he was voted the most by all of the players. You can see that they respect him. They talk a lot about him day to day being someone that is very professional and goes about his work within training and just how he conducts himself like a leader and like a captain should. And I think that you can see that through the players, how they respond to him and how they and like you said, obviously they give him the captaincy when Aubameyang comes off. And I think that him and Luiz are kind of like the spiritual leaders of the team. Although obviously Aubameyang is like the talisman, I think when you look at how some of the players talk about Luiz and how they act towards Xhaka, I think that they're natural leaders, where Aubameyang is a bit more of a jovial kind of lead by example type person. But I think he's come on leaps and bounds. I think the way that he plays, I think positionally he's improved. I think it looks like just he understands his role. I think Arteta's clear in telling him and giving him instructions, and I think he's followed them. He's still going to have the odd times when he loses the ball, because I think Arteta's also told him to take risks on the ball and, be on the ball. And he may be left exposed in some aspects if he loses the ball or anything, but it's cut down dramatically from my estimation. And I think in terms of the defense in general, I think that there's just a better structure. I think the idea is clear. I think that at the moment, I think they've recognized three at the back makes more sense because of the personnel that we've got. And I think it is easier when we play against, I know easy is probably not the wrong word, but I think the defense that we have, it maybe suits them when we play against people who have more of the ball because they can play deeper. And then it is just about structure and about obviously maintaining that. You still see the odd mistakes. Holden made a few mistakes. Kolasinac obviously has made made a high profile one. David Luiz. But again, I just think that there's a structure in place that allows them to be as good as they're going to be. I think no one's under any illusion that we need defenders in the summer. Obviously, Saliba's going to come in and probably one more addition, hopefully. But I think for now, you would be blind. I think sometimes people don't just watch the game. Like if you watch the game and you watch Arsenal play, it's clear that there's an improvement in the team from a defensive standpoint. And that's not just at the back. That's actually throughout the whole team. You look at Pepe fighting a lot more. You look at Ceballos and Xhaka, the axis is a lot better. Maitland-Niles, there's a lot of reasons to suggest that we're defending a lot better as a team.
I just want to highlight some comments in the chat because I think sometimes I get criticised by leaving out some of the comments that maybe disagree with the point of view of what's been going on. And I'm going to let John feed on from it. Because there's still a lot of people that are criticising him, saying they wouldn't have him. Mike Hernandez saying, I still don't rate him. I'm sorry. Toby says Xhaka shouldn't start ahead of Partey. Ceballos is a guaranteed starter on the Mikel. Only reason Xhaka might start is because he's left-footed. If I scroll down a bit more, Mr. J, one of our members, says Xhaka's weaknesses get covered by a better team as a whole. Omar says Xhaka still needs to be moved on. Sorry, but a couple of good games doesn't change the fact that he's been rubbish for years. So I think there's a couple more in that. Matthew DeSoto says, I like Xhaka, but he'll always be a 7 out of 10 player for me. He's the least of our worries. It's the best compliment I can give him. John, do you think there's an element that I think there's some credence that for a length of time, Xhaka had a period where he would make consistent errors in passing during games. He was caught out of position and he made some errors which unfortunately did lead to goals. Correct. I've not seen that part of his game too much, say, in the last 6 months. But do you think maybe he's done enough that some people can't either forgive him for those past mistakes? Or do you feel now he's done enough that people should be more open to seeing what he's able to do under Arteta?
I don't like to prescribe what people should or shouldn't do. I think that you have your views and you support however way you want. Some people just don't like certain players for whatever reason. I will say that he is not the greatest player in the world. All right. Maybe a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 player is not an unreasonable rating of him. That being said, if the reason for your rating him so low is that he made so many mistakes before, I don't think that you're looking at the entire context of those mistakes. I think that when you look at how he was being utilized at the end of Wenger's tenure, and then especially during Emery's tenure as a sole DM in a team with extremely difficult issues with keeping a shape and demonstrable issues in the defense. Of course, every single mistake he made was going to be highlighted. And of course, some of those highlights were going to lead to goals. So if that's the basis for your saying, okay, he's not good enough, we should move him on, I can understand why you were coming from. But look, you really got to look at it in context. Now, being utilized properly. By the way, the same kind of things were at sometimes said about Coquelin, remember? That he wasn't good enough going forward and that he was only good enough when Santi Cazorla was next to him. But we know that once that partnership was figured out and he was utilized properly, I mean, we put up some of our best, even away defensive performances and midfield performances. Manchester City comes to mind in like 2014 or whatever, 15. But look, when you were going back to Xhaka here, I think that there's absolutely some criticism that could be leveled at him. And I think that the fact that everyone highlighted that one mistake he made in the FA Cup final is interesting because he hasn't made mistakes like those in a very long time under Arteta. And there's a lot of good reasons. First of all, maybe in the beginning of the season it was because Arteta was admittedly focusing on the attack and fixing the spine of the team first, with trying to get more shots created. But if you look at the shots that we've conceded since that kind of got sorted out a little bit, it is absolutely decreased. So when you're looking at it from a whole perspective, our entire team as a cohesive unit has been getting better under Arteta. And because of that, there's more support for Xhaka. He doesn't have to do as much in the midfield as he did prior to Arteta. And it's actually working in a way that contributes and exemplifies the good qualities that he has, like getting the ball forward into attacking areas like Aubameyang and things like that. Like if Aubameyang doesn't get the ball, we have big issues. Now Tierney's there helping him on that side as well. He's a left-footed player, like was mentioned on the chat. I don't think that's the only reason why Arteta's picking him. I think that when he's not playing in the midfield, we've seen this season that we look a lot worse. Is there better players out there? Are there better players out there? Absolutely. But for what he offers, not only from a leadership perspective, but from his abilities to get what Arteta wants to get in terms of a game plan on the pitch, he's absolutely, I think, an essential player for us going forward. So, yeah, there might be better ones out there, but when you look at the criticisms that he had in context of why they were being caused and what he's contributed since, I personally think that he got a lot of unfair criticism, minus the fan thing. I think that that's a whole nother thing, and obviously that's inexcusable. But look, everything was a mess then, and you heard about what was being said about his family. I'll give him a pass on that, just in the sense that I don't want to prescribe to think that I can know what it felt like to be him at that moment. So I can understand pressure and people deal with it differently. He came back and helped us win a cup, so I can't really complain too much.
If there's one thing that football fans are, it is reactionary. I mean, one of our shows on the channel is called Raw Reactions. Like, that is literally what we do. We react to stuff, no matter how hyperbolic and how exaggerative. We always react to things, and ultimately, after you've said some of the things that react to, you might look back at what you said a week later and think, okay, yeah, maybe I went a bit too far. The issue with that is when you're in a world of social media where everything you say is documented and is archived and can be found at a click of a finger, it's very difficult to sometimes break away from those opinions or say that I was wrong. And John, I mean, on the podcast that I did when I came onto your channel, that was one of the big things we talked about, is maybe admitting that you were wrong on something and having the sort of the
happens all the time.
Having the guile, I suppose, to turn around and say, yeah, I got that wrong. And the final player that I want to focus on is someone that, Adam, you brought up earlier on, and that's Hector Bellerin. He was and has been severely criticised, it's fair to say, by a lot of the fan base. A lot of the fan base would happily see him go. Maybe not a lot, but a fair portion would be happy to see him leave. And part of me was, I'll say, a month ago, was probably in that crowd that would be okay with him moving on, possibly getting into finances for him, getting £110,000 per week off the wage bill. But in the preview show for the final, I preferred for him to start, because I thought he would offer us something going forward on that right flank that none of the other right back. Cedric, who of course couldn't play. I don't think he has enough going forward compared to Bellerin. Ainsley Maitland-Niles I kind of wanted to see on the left flank, but even still, his output and his final ball in the final third isn't the best. And I thought Bellerin would give us that. And ultimately, Aubameyang's second goal, which got us the win, was massively down to the fantastic run through the middle of the pitch from Bellerin. It was akin to what we saw in the pre-season game. And there was a video that went out of the run that he made against Brentford in the home match, where he ran through the middle of the pitch, and it was almost picture perfect in how it matched it. But how is your head regarding the Spaniard? Are you still open to see him being moved on, or has he earned the right to stay in your mind? I asked the hard questions.
I know. I don't know. I think my biggest thing about Bellerin is that it's his commitment. I can see that a lot of footballers have outside interests because they have to take care of themselves once their career is over, which I completely understand. But some people keep it sort of hidden. And the impact that it has on their on-pitch performance isn't as obvious as it is with Hector Bellerin. All the modelling and stuff like that, I just look at it and I think, okay, it's great, but where are your priorities? What do you actually care more about, the football or the modelling? And I can tell also, and isn't that such a weird thing for me to say about a footballer? Yeah. And I think you made a couple comments before about how the comments from Arsenal Fan TV have got to him, and how that he doesn't know who Arsenal Fan TV are, which is a complete lie because he definitely does. Yeah. If anything, proves how much it has got to him. So
I think captain was FaceTiming one of them after the game. So
of course they did. So my biggest thing is his mentality. How committed is he to playing football? How committed is he to getting better and improving his performance? And how committed is he to proving doubters and haters wrong? Because I'm one of them. I'm still unsure and on the fence about whether he should stay or whether he should go. We could get a lot of money for him, but then it makes me think, is there something that we're missing? That yard of pace that he was lacking because of his injuries, I think is slowly but surely coming back. And you know what? If I'm honest, even if we get a 6 or 7 out of 10 from him every week, I would take it, because as long as everyone else in the team is performing, you don't really need much more from him. I don't need a Trent or Robertson in my team every single week. It would be nice, but I think those guys are few and far between. So let Bellerin just concentrate on his football. And if he does that, I'll keep him. If not, get out of there, man.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, I'm not usually one of the guys that goes along with the likes of Roy Keane, typically in football. But there's part of me that wants to go, during the very short period that football careers give you, I want that to be your number one thing. And I want when you're playing for my club, I want your full attention and full commitment on that. I'm not saying you can't have a life outside of it, but when outside influences start to detract your focus from what your priorities should be, that's where I may be. And to be honest, I don't know the guy personally. Yeah. I don't know enough. I'm only speaking on what's been reported and what's been put out publicly. And that could be, for all we know, utter bollocks. But the thing is that a lot, as we were talking about earlier, football fans are very reactionary. And that's why there was a lot of backlash from that AFTV interview quotes that you put out. And as we say, seeing Troops talk to Aubameyang afterwards, and I sent Troops a WhatsApp saying, you keep ploughing away at Aubameyang until he signs a new deal all day long, and he said he's working on it. So fingers crossed that Agent Troops could get Alba a new deal. But in terms of the Bellerin thing, I think you're spot on. The focus needs to be there. It needs to happen, and if it doesn't, then there's a strong argument to say maybe we should be looking at someone else to be the priority at right back. Let's spend the last half an hour of the show looking ahead and looking at what this means and what the impact of this will be for next season. We will come on to Willian and possibly Coutinho and the transfer stuff, but just Raph on a financial basis. And before I do, very quickly, I just want to say thank you so much for Sam Tressida for signing up as a new member. Much appreciated. You've joined a group of fantastic people. But Raph, in terms of like the group of in the way that we've now qualified for Europa League, the finances that will come from winning the FA Cup and from being included in European competition and what that means for transfers, do you expect too much different to what we have expected to see had we have not qualified for the European competition through the FA Cup?
I think from the sounds of it, yeah, definitely. Very sorry to, I do want to answer your question, but just very quickly with the Bellerin thing, I'd sell him. I personally, I think I love Bellerin, but I'd sell him and get Aarons, or I'd let Maitland-Niles be. I think we got to be cruel to be kind a little bit because we're not a City in regards to finances. I would sell him, get Aarons, or let Maitland-Niles be our right back if he wants to do it. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the transfers, I think from all of the noises coming out, that was pivotal. And I think that if we hadn't won and hadn't got Europa League, I think we would have been doing a lot of shape shifting. Maybe we would have tried to get Malang Sarr. Maybe we wouldn't have had enough for Willian. Maybe it would have been a lot of frees and seeing what we could do with swaps, and that would have been it. It looks like now we have a little bit more money to play with. And one thing I would say, for good or bad, Raul and Edu and probably Kia Jarapchin, it seems like he's part of the board, have they can wheel and deal. And last year, I think because we've done badly this year, I think people forget the fact that last year we were saying that this was probably the best window that we've had in ages. They found ways to structure different deals to make the very most of the money that we had, it seemed. So I think that now that gives us a bit of flexibility to play with money-wise. And I think that we should see that pay dividends. I'm hoping so anyway. I mean, obviously, like you said, we'll get on to the people that we've been linked with. And I have my reservations about the direction that potentially we're going in. But I do think that this helps us significantly in, for one, being able to attract. I don't know if you saw the video from Pepe, and when he was talking before the game. Yeah. But the one that he's talking from the game with his top off, obviously forget the fact that he had his top off, but he was talking about we're going to get into the Europa League and we're going to attract players.
Yes, I did.
And it just shows that maybe we look at it like Champions League or bust, but maybe for players, the Europa League is still Europe and it is still something that's going to attract them. And let's be honest, the big players are only going to play in this last 16 and quarterfinal anyway, really. So, and then it's pretty much good teams. So I do think that is going to attract, and I do think we're going to have more money to play with.
John, do you want to come in on this and give your thoughts on it 100%?
Yeah, and I think we've mentioned it before. And Raph makes an excellent point about the Europa League and how I think players might view that as well. But one thing that I mentioned before doesn't get addressed enough in terms of a draw for big players is the Premier League itself, especially from outside of Europe, other places in Europe besides in England. England itself, everyone in England that wants to play in England wants to play in the Premier League, right? And then when you look at across the world as well, including America and including other areas of Europe, it's the biggest league in Europe. And you could argue that, I'm sorry, Tom, that La Liga, or whatever. But when you look at the money and the exposure that players get here, you have a good season in the Premier League, you can go anywhere you want and you can get a lot of money for it. And then if you travel within the Premier League, forget it. I mean, the bubble about players in the league already is astronomical. So it's from a financial perspective and a sporting perspective, not only is Europa, just coming to the Premier League itself is a big draw.
And there's a key point about the Champions League. I saw a really good question, Adam. I'll throw it to you in the chat from Daniel Robert. He says, would you take fifth and an FA Cup next year, or is Champions League qualification the most important thing? Because, and I want to just buffer that question up a little bit, because one of the biggest things, the biggest key arguments that I've had against the Chelseas, the Man United fans who are playing in Champions League next season is, for me, football is about trophies. Football is about winning things. No player gets to the end of their career and says, oh, I played in 10 consecutive Champions League seasons. Like, they don't say that. They say, I've got a FA Cup medal, I've got a League Cup medal, I've got a Premier League medal, whatever. But where's your head at? Because it's very hard to get away from playing in the Champions League and the financial sort of buffer that it gives you.
Yeah. I think one thing that the FA Cup has done is bought Arteta time. So I can't see Arsenal fans getting on his back maybe as quickly as we would have done had he not won something, or had we not seen maybe immediate improvements in some of the players. And because of that, I think we could perhaps take a fifth and an FA Cup next year without Champions League qualification, because we've seen so many improvements in such a short space of time. I do think, though, however, after that, so what's that, season 2021, 2022, I think we have to be looking at Champions League qualification. That is the ultimate goal. Well, the ultimate goal is to win the Premier League, but that has to be one of the milestones into winning the ultimate goal. And like this guy says, I want to hear, these are the champions. Like we have, that's what we're all here to see. So
That's
yeah, I do think that, fifth in an FA Cup next season would be an improvement, but it's, I guess, a smaller step to the overarching goal, which is winning the Premier League than perhaps we would like.
Yeah, it is hard to get Mike Hernandez says sing it. It is hard to get away from. I mean, we've got a singer in the box. Raph, maybe you could give us a rendition of the Champions League anthem, mate.
You're gonna put him on the spot like that.
When we get there. Not now. When we get there,
save this. Save this clip.
Make sure you go check out some of Raph's music. It's fantastic. But yeah, please. I mean, it's very, very difficult to get away with obviously wanting to be there. I loved the Champions League nights, and we were, in a way, we took it for granted being in it for so long, for so many consecutive years, and being 4 seasons out of it sucks. It really, really sucks not being in that competition and not playing against the top teams. In a weird way, it has made me appreciate the Europa League a lot more, the way we used to criticise it. And we nearly didn't even have it this coming season. We're very, in a way, lucky to have it for next season. You still get some very, very decent sides like Valencia, Atletico Madrid, of course, knocked us out in the semi-finals in our first season, played against Chelsea in the final. There are still some very big sides in that competition, but we know the big bucks and the big glory and the pride that comes with playing in the Champions League. But ultimately, for me, I will always stand by the comment that trophies is the most important thing. And an FA Cup, for me, beats Europe Champions League qualification all day long. And it's funny, isn't it, how we were criticised for having the 4th place trophy for so many years, and now all of a sudden it's not that. But you know, it's
just wait. If Spurs don't qualify for Europa League, see how what they're saying about Europa League.
Into the second round of qualifying, haven't we? So they're going to play.
Yeah, I can't wait for that rationalization in those sour grapes when they're like, it's just the Europa. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Last 5 minutes in terms of main pod, and then we'll go 10 minutes of user questions. The last 5 minutes I'm going to dedicate to sort of the video I put out earlier on today, which of course was on Willian. We've been linked very, very heavily to the Brazilian. Raph, I'm going to come to you first on this. I'm going to get all of your thoughts on this, but starting with you, Raph. Firstly, do you want him? If so, in what way do you want him in terms of how wages are affected? If you don't want him, tell me why.
I don't want him personally. I wouldn't mind him if he wanted a 1 year, maybe a 2 year. But the fact that he wants a 3 year, I think what people are not looking at is we've got somebody on the wage bill, and I'm a big Ozil fan from before. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just saying by people, when you say why people don't want him, you mean me.
Yeah. No, but for me, we've got someone on the wage bill at the moment, and I'm an Ozil fan in terms of his career, but now he's effectively dead weight on £350,000 a week. We are going to give Willian a 3 year, and it's quoted even a potential extension to have 4 years. So we're going to potentially be in the same position in 3 years. He is not worth a 3 year deal, and that's why Chelsea don't want to give it to him, in my opinion. I look at his output, and while it's been better this year, normally for somebody that plays in a front three or plays in a wide position, he doesn't score and assist enough, in my opinion. He has good games, don't get me wrong, and he's a good player. There's some good things about him, but I just think it's short term. And I think if we look at the clubs who are actually making strides, we look at Liverpool. We talk about Liverpools of this world, and we talk about the Dortmunds to a lesser extent, and those teams that have, with not that much finance, have managed to become successful teams for whatever reason. They've invested young, 24 and under, 25-year-olds who are hungry, who understand the game and fit into their philosophy. I feel like we're just buying too much into this kind of agents, you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of mentality, where we're picking up these players with big names who, let's face it, Willian only wants to stay in London. His family is settled and he wants a free year. So that immediately says to me, he's not necessarily backing himself to get an extension after the 2-year at Chelsea. And he's thinking, I have to settle for, I have to kind of make sure that my family are covered now, if that makes sense. Like it's more of a family orientated decision. And I just think the Chelsea players that we've brought haven't been amazing. The Czech at Arsenal wasn't the Czech at Chelsea. The David Luiz is David Luiz. Good, bad, and the ugly, you'll get all of it. And I just think Willian is even though he's had a good season, in 3 years' time, what's he going to be like? And I just think that we just should be looking at younger, more exciting players, or players that are going to actually help us for years to come. And I just don't think he's going to be that. I guess he's free, but yeah.
I think it's completely fair, the point you raise. I get the argument of signing certain players. For me, and John, I'm going to go to you. Let me pitch to you the opposite. And then I'll let you have your say. The opposite for me, and the reasons to get Willian, is I think that the priorities for Arsenal in a financial sense are in centre midfield and in defence, are not in a wing area. So to get in someone that's Premier League ready, that's playing at a top club that I should remind people wants to be kept by Chelsea as much as possible, and would be free, would make sense to me in that kind of region, if that makes sense. I see a lot of people saying that he's a step backwards. My argument to that is saying that if you look in a season next year where, and I think Mike Hernandez pointed out, there's an African Cup of Nations where we're going to lose Pepe and Aubameyang possibly for a certain amount of time, depending on if both of them qualify. Yeah, I see Adam's face of pure shock there. But in terms of like the depth that we need, there's going to be 5 substitutes again, which is a big thing for the really big sides that have got a big quality squad and depth in them. Where's your head at regarding Willian? Do you want him? If you do, what are the circumstances that you think we should get him in?
I think that the answer to the first question is informed by whatever the answer to the second question is. So if he's our only piece of business in the outfield, no, right? Yeah. We can not only get Willian. Also, if the if this is Czech year 2.0, no. But if, and the other part of that is if we're getting him for wages that are not exorbitant, if we get him for free and his wages are within reason. I mean, he's an international player. He has extensive Premier League experience. The guy knows how to win. He might not be the greatest player in the world, but if we're really working on this rebuild and we use the logic for keeping David Luiz and extending his contract, that he has a winning mentality and that he has experience in the league and that he can show the younger players, like, for example, Martinelli, who I think that are we really going to go out and buy a brand new winger that's ready to go and we have Martinelli that's possibly waiting in the wing as well? Or would we bring someone in who's going to be not break the bank, allow us to focus on areas of the pitch that we need, and allow us to have someone that might be a mentor? And I know this mentor argument isn't very satisfying for some people and it doesn't always work out, but if there is a justification for getting them, that's what it would be. Now, my personal opinion, I think that it depends on the other business we do. Having him at the right price is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. If it's the only business we do, not good. We have areas of the pitch that are much more important. If we're signing him and neglecting those areas, I would say run away as fast as possible and at all costs. But if we can get him for the right price, and we look at the young talent we have in the wing areas that would be able to benefit from his knowledge and skill, and he's coming from a Premier League team, given what we said about players leaving potentially in other competitions, Aubameyang and Pepe, I mean, we're going to need someone with experience, and we can't really roll the dice in that regard. I think the big thing that people have, the issue, is the price tag and maybe his age. So yes, those are some things I'm concerned about. I haven't really looked into his injury record to see whether it would be worth it, but I can see both sides of it. And I think that if it's done, it needs to be done the right way, and it needs to be done in conjunction with areas of the pitch that need strengthening way more than that area.
Adam, let's finish off with your surrounding thoughts around Willian. Do you want him? Do you not want him? How would you feel about the situation?
I think one of my biggest concerns about winning the FA Cup and getting Europa was that our squad wasn't deep enough. So purely thinking in those terms, Willian makes sense. But I do understand Raph's points about apparently he's 32 next week.
But he's 31 now.
Give him a
he's not 32 yet. Remember how it works. Age works in a very, very secure way.
But by the time he signs, he's 32. We give him a 4-year deal. He's going to be until he's 36. Yeah. And I just think that's a bit crazy, man. We can't be doing stuff like that. What Einstein said, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We've seen what happened. Ozil doesn't care. He's on £300,000, £350,000 a week, and we haven't really got many memorable performances from him. I think it would be kind of silly to put ourselves in the same situation again. I'm sure there's lots of young players that would, come in and do a similar job, but I do think he'd be an upgrade on Nelson. So I don't know.
Raph, let me very, very briefly go back to you, just so I think it's fair to give you your shot after we've sort of given the counterpoints. Has your mind changed in any way to those sort of points that have come out counter that, or is it still solidly no?
No, the thing is, like, I understand the pros. I'm just weighing up everything. Like, I understand he's he's got Premier League experience. To be honest, he may be able to, and I think what they may be thinking is, let's just get in the Champions League. If we can get in the Champions League, then we can kind of take his wages. We can take the hit if he gets us that windfall and he helps us. I get all of that. But I just think if it was a 2-year, I would be more inclined to say, yeah, 100%, let's just go for it. It's free. It makes sense. But a 3-year deal, I just think if it goes wrong, we're going to just potentially have someone just sitting there, just collecting. And I just don't think we have the resources to be able to afford that. We're not City where they had Yaya Toure just sit out for a year. We've already done that with Ozil, and it stopped us from actually buying players. So I just think that's my overarching kind of stance is that the pros and the cons, I just think there's more cons than pros. But I get the pros, if that makes sense. Yeah. But I just think 3 years too long. And that's why Chelsea aren't giving it to him, who are actually invested in young players. So I just don't think it makes sense. I think it's just jobs for the boys a little bit. Because somebody said it in the chat as well. They've got a restaurant. Him and David Luiz got a restaurant. His missus probably loves Selfridges and Harrods, like they're used to it. They've probably got children in schools. They're comfortable. It just feels very much like this is it.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And I think Kia Jarapchin's a partner too. Funny enough, so I'm being serious. I don't think you can't.
Yeah, no, it's not a joke. I've seen it.
That's true. That actually raises an interesting point that, I don't know, irrespective of how people might feel about this agent situation with these players, if for whatever reason the club has figured out that it is important for us to work with these agents, these deals, if they don't hurt us, could help us later on with future deals as well, creating these relationships with these agents, now. Yeah, and I'm not saying that that's the right way to go or necessarily that we are going that way, but it makes sense from a perspective of, we get a player now that isn't going to hurt us too much and we get him for the right price. And because we're doing business with these agents, when that player that they have that like we really, really need, they come to us now because, look, you lined my pockets, I'm going to help you. That's how it works sometimes. And it's a little shady. And I know Wenger didn't like dealing with that, but that's kind of modern football now. And if we're starting to play that game, it could be a good thing.
Yeah, I think that nicely feeds on to tonight's sponsor, which is the sponsor of Inside Babbo, which happens to be David Luiz and Willian's restaurant. So if you would like to go get some authentic Italian cuisine run by two Brazilians, you know where to go. But no, I kid. Let's move on to the question section. We have got about 10 more minutes. So, boys, if you could try and make your answers as brief as possible with a little elaboration rather than just a yes or no. But let's try and keep it as brief as we can to get through as many as possible. Adam, I'm going to start with you. Matthew De Souza says, should we assure Martinez that he will be number one to make him stay?
That's so hard. That's such a hard one.
Keep it brief.
Yes or no?
Okay, a bit of context again.
Yeah.
Again, Leno's one of the players that I feel like I should get an apology for. Back when it was unfashionable. I was saying Leno was like top 2-3 in the league. Look at us now. Yeah. Okay. My heart says yes, because Leno is better with dealing with aerial balls.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. John's loving it. Raph, Daniel Robert says, a good thing about Europa League is that it gives us lots of opportunities to our youngsters like Xhaka and Martinelli, who from our academy could shine next season. I reckon Emil Smith-Rowe.
I think Emil Smith-Rowe is a shout. I think Aziz, I would have said Bellerin, but he's leaving. Tyrese John Jules is a good shout as well. But I like Aziz from what I've seen. Aziz and Emil Smith-Rowe.
John Fabrizio Farino, which is a fantastic name, says in January. Oh, have I gone?
Sorry.
Have I gone?
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm good. Okay. He says in January, Arsenal inquired about Boubakary Soumara from Lille. Is he at Lille? I thought he was at somewhere else. In my opinion, he would be better than Partey. What do you guys think?
No.
Okay, there you go. Simple as
no,
that.
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because I really think that Partey would be able to offer more creativity in the midfield than and that's something that we absolutely need right now. And he's a player that's not going to get kicked off the ball too easily. I don't think he's going to be like the answer to our attacking issues. I think that's going to be coming from figuring out the best way to use the players in a cohesive way. So, but in terms of creative output, I just see more from Partey.
Okay. Samara is very good though.
He is a great player. Sorry. Don't misinterpret me saying that Samara is good. It just say, would he be a better option than Partey is the question, and I don't think so.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Adam, this is a question for you. From Dial Square to Where says, please can you, Adam, do a scout report for Toyn Koopmeiners? He is one of the top transfer targets.
Yeah, man. Cool. Yeah, cool. I'll have that for you next time I'm on, bro. Cool.
Do you know who he is? Because I don't. So
I do now.
There you go. I mean, I will try, as we do on this show, we will endeavour to educate you on plenty of players that even I have no idea who these guys are. I've learned so much. I didn't know who Amadou Diawara at Roma was before the other week when we did a video on him. We will try. Tomorrow we've got a video coming out on Diego Carlos from Sevilla, the Brazilian centre-back. So looking forward to that one. Adam, I'll be fair to you this time. Mike Hernandez says, is the Alba contract situation just history repeating itself, similar to RVP? He wants the club moving in the right direction.
I want to say no, it isn't. Purely because from everything I read about Aubameyang, he's got a really good relationship with others at the club. They say that his work ethic and commitment hasn't faltered at all. And I think we now have the resources to show him that we're moving in the right direction. So I don't think it's the same, although I can see where you think the similarity comes from.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think it is different for sure. Yannick Macraff says, would you take Zaha on loan? I mean, I don't know how you're going to get Crystal Palace to agree to that. Would you take him on loan instead of signing Willian on a free?
1,000,000%. I mean, I think there was talk about a loan with an obligation to buy. I think Zaha, what I like about Zaha is that he's an Arsenal fan, and I think that he's like underrated in regards to if he went to a bigger club, he would shine. I think he carried Palace a lot. So yeah, 1,000,000%. Yeah.
John from Dial Square to Where, one of our members, says Aubameyang doesn't look like he's unhappy at all, does he?
No, and I think that's a great question, because when you look at in mentioning the RVP situation, I think when players have left in the past, there's kind of been this air of that around them, that we kind of got a sense that they were going to go. You think about like Alexis, you think about like RVP, like it was kind of like this environment, this air, I guess is the best way to put it, around them. And I just do not get that with Aubameyang. I don't recall a transfer that has just shocked us completely, that we see totally out of the blue. Why did this player leave? He seems so happy. Maybe RVP a little bit. Some people probably didn't see it, but I thought the writing was on the wall there, especially with the stuff that he was saying. Everything that's being said, including the player and what he's going on social media and saying, would make me very surprised if he actually left, just because it does seem like he's so happy.
Let's give you all a question where you only get to answer with one word, or rather in this case, one number. Mr. J85 says, can you rate Arteta out of 10 since he took over? Adam, starting with you, mate. Is that an 8? I think it was an 8.
Definitely an 8. Room for improvement, but very good.
Yeah, 8. I would say 8 as well. Room for improvement, but yeah.
9 because of the mentality of the players now.
I agree. I'm going with a 9. It would have been a 10 if we got Champions League qualification.
Yes, yes.
Probably
yes, 100%.
Yes, for sure. Where do we get to? Adam, I'll come back round to you again. Owen Young says, I'm all for competition, but a club in our current situation cannot afford to have 2 keepers of that value. We have a tough decision to make. Who do you keep? I know I asked you about Martinez earlier, but
yes.
Because who doesn't love a love story? I'll keep Martinez just because, you know, he's been at the club for 10 years and he was crying at the final whistle. And if you want to really clutch at straws, you could say Leno is injury prone. I don't know.
Fair enough. Raph, this is a really interesting question actually from Mad Wild One, who says, how important is the role of footwork in an offensive player, and who has the best footwork of our squad?
It depends what you mean by footwork. I think it's important. I think because obviously when you're as a winger, you'd probably say Pepe in regards to his dribbling ability, but I would also then say Aubameyang's better off the ball. So it depends what you're looking at in terms of footwork. But I think it's very important that you're able to drag defenders out of position, especially when they play in a low block, because that's normally the only way that you can really penetrate, when you actually allow somebody that can actually take on the defender and then drag someone out of position. So I used to play on the wing as well. So yeah, very important. Most important position.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I would say I'd say Pepe. Yeah.
Last few questions then. John Sam Tressider is our brand new member. He says, thoughts on Emile Smith-Rowe? Do you bring him in as an apprentice style position next year and get some minutes in like the Europa League, etc.? Do you loan him for another season, or do we sell him while his value is hot?
I think absolutely bring him in. I would love to see him play. I think he's a great talent, and I think that the Europa League is a perfect area for him. I had mentioned it on another podcast that the Europa League has been a testing ground for our youth. It allowed players like Xhaka, Martinelli to really shine, Eddie, Willock. These players have done extremely well in the competition. So I think if we have room to play him, and we're going to need to rotate anyway, we have a young player that's really that did really well on his loan, and I think could really show that he has the quality to make it up to the first team if he has a chance.
Adam, one of our other members, Kitchener Leslie's girlfriend. And to be fair, we've never seen Kitchener Leslie. We only ever have his girlfriend in the chat. I find it strange. Kitchener's always here, but Adam, he says, or she says, thoughts on risks of overplaying Saliba next season like we did to Iwobi and Bellerin?
Depends entirely on who we sell, because I think we are overloaded with centre-backs at the moment. Holding, Socrates, David Luiz, Chambers,
Marie.
Yeah. So we've got quite a few, but I think Arteta is smart enough to know that he needs a full squad. So I don't think he'll be overplayed, although I do think he'll play an important part in our season next season.
Raph Owen Young says, what player has impressed you the most this season? Not just like the best, but the person you have enjoyed watching the most.
I would say Xhaka overall. I think just in what I expected from him and what he's given, I did think he was going to be a good player for us this year. But I think the growth that he's shown and the maturity in final third, I think he's been the most enjoyable. Honourable mention for Tierney and Martinez as well, just in regards to coming back from the injury with Tierney and still looking like one of the signings of the season. And Martinez, again, from what Adam said, just kind of like 10 years, been patient, and it just shows that it just means so much to him and his story and stuff. So I would say those three.
Let's let that one finish off the show and give it a round trip. So, John, what are your thoughts? Who's impressed you the most this season?
I think Tierney has impressed me the most this season. I mean, he's grown to probably one of my favorite players on this team, if not my favorite player. Obviously, Aubameyang is always impressive, but as Raph said, I think I mean, to come back from injury, we knew that all the Celtic fans rated him, and it's clear why, because he's been awesome, I think, and he's gotten an area of that pitch that we had a big hole once Monreal left, and we're worried about how we're going to do that with Kolasinac filling in for him. But now we have that area unlocked.
Adam.
Yes, sir. For me, it's Xhaka, man. I love the guy. I think what I love about him most is that he's an intelligent player. And I know that because he's got, I watched an interview saying that he got like 11 A stars and A's at his GCSE as well. I just thought, what a guy, what a great kid. I love the fact that he can play in so many positions. He always plays with a smile on his face, and yeah, I'm just really happy to see. I really, really, really like Bukayo Saka, although I can't wait for Tesco Bag Tierney to be my captain.
Love that. Let's get some shout outs in the chat box. Yonic Max says Maitland Niles is enjoyed watching. Webster says Granit Xhaka. Dave Atkinson, Raph says Martinelli as one of the guys. So does Rydog as an 18-year-old. Luis Suarez. Amazing stuff from him. Charles Black also says Martinelli as well. So yeah, really, really good stuff. Neil Gunner says first time viewing, good show, enjoyed. When's the next one? Well, that's sort of the final thing we want to say is a massive thank you. And of course, I speak for everyone else who's come on the show this season, everyone else in the chat. I'm not going to go and try and name them all because I'll forget someone and insult them. But thank you to all the regular guests who, of course, have joined us for this season. It's been an amazing year. We've had highs in terms of what we've just talked about in terms of the FA Cup, the utter epitome of low points in games that we've had to talk about. Brighton comes to mind as that game where you're just thinking, it's been so long since we've had football and we've waited for this to lose against Brighton.
Aston Villa.
When you just think things are looking up, we can beat Villa and then beat Watford on the final day to put Europa League into our own hands. But no, we're not going to give it that simple. We're going to try and go and beat Chelsea in an FA Cup final. And there's obviously been high points as well. The Man City semi-final, the Chelsea game, for instance, Liverpool. I really enjoyed the Spurs home game when we came back from being those goals down. I know we didn't win, but just turning that around was enjoyable.
Man United game.
The Man United game at home where Pepe scored, and after all the Man United fans that had laughed at Pepe all season, for him to get that goal was really satisfying.
The season's been so long, man.
It's been so long. Martinelli's goal.
Our manager was Emery at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird. We've had three managers this season: Emery, Ljungberg, and now Arteta. Who'd have thought that as Arsenal fans, having Wenger for so long, we'd be sitting after a season where we'd experienced three coaches?
London buses.
Unbelievable. Thank you, everyone in the live chat. You have joined us throughout the whole season. I know we've had lots of you join in as well, just today, even it seems like. In terms of when the next one is, well, things are just going to carry on as they were, really. Tomorrow we've got a tactical breakdown show on Diego Carlos. We've got a tactical breakdown podcast with Drew talking about the tactics behind the FA Cup final win, which will be the last thing I can sort of milk from the FA Cup game completely. That'll be the end of that. And then we look ahead to next season and the transfers that are going to happen, who might be starting, players that come in and doing breakdowns on them. But my final question to all you boys, and to thank you as well, is to just ask the hardest of questions is, where do you predict we will finish at the end of the 2021 season? I don't want any of this BS of, I don't know who we're bringing in. I don't know who our rivals are bringing in. I want a prediction in terms of Premier League, Europa League, League Cup, and FA Cup. What are we going to do? John, you're up, fella. Is John gone? He heard me say that question. He was like, no. Adam, that means it's you, mate. I'm sorry.
I think we're finishing 5th in the league. I think Leicester won't be as good next season, and I reckon Tottenham will fire Mourinho before the end of the season. FA Cup, League Cup, don't see us winning either of those, and I reckon we'll get to the semi-final of the Europa League.
Okay, interesting. Raph?
Firstly, shout out to everyone saying get me on more, and I've got good stuff. Appreciate it. There's
been shouts for you too, Adam.
I just saw my name. You see your name in it. I think we'll finish 4th. I think we'll quarterfinal of the League Cup, quarterfinal of the FA Cup, I think we will win the Europa League.
Ooh, big calls, John. I kind of threw a question at you as you disappeared. And
yeah, what happened?
Like you've just been a bit of a coward and just didn't want to answer the question.
No. I knew it was going to look like that too, but no, my internet just cut out.
Here's the question.
No, I did not. It could cut out.
I want a prediction of Premier League champion. Oh no, Europa League.
Well, that
FA
one's easy.
Cup,
Champions League.
League Cup finish next season. What are you going for?
All right. So for the league, I'm going to go with 4th. I think we'll finish top 4. For the FA Cup, I think we're at least going to make it to the semifinal. I think at least the semifinal, but I have a feeling we'll be in the final again. In Europa League, I think we're going to make it to the final. And then I guess depending on who we're playing is depends on who we win, if we win or not. But I think that we could, with the team that we have and what Arteta is doing with this team. What was the other one? FA Cup? Did I say that one already?
Yeah, or League Cup.
League Cup.
League Cup. I think we'll win the League Cup. I don't think we haven't.
Treble.
Yeah.
Go for a treble.
We're gonna do it. No, I said we're gonna get to the finals. To be fair, I never said we're gonna win anything.
Okay.
So don't put words in my mouth. No, all right. Look, realistically, yeah, I think we can. I don't see what's wrong. Why can't we win the League Cup? You guys know something I don't.
Is at the end of next season, I'll get you 3 back on, and we'll see how wrong we were.
What did everyone else say about the League Cup? I'm curious.
What did you say, Adam? Did you think it was out?
I said quarters. We won't. I don't think we'll get past the quarters in the League Cup, and I think FA Cup will be quarters as well. But I think we'll win the Europa League.
Yeah,
I think winning the Europa League is harder than the quarterfinals in the League Cup.
I just think it's the way. I think with the League Cup, City just always seem to just roll everyone over because at the beginning they play, and then I just think FA Cup, because we've won it. I just think by design we just won't win it this year. I don't know why.
Don't go for the quadruple.
We're going to win everything and the Champions League, even though we're not in it.
Yeah.
We're going to get the Audi Cup.
Saka Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, Saka's going to win the Ballon d'Or. It's going to be you thought this season was crazy. Just wait until next season.
Unbelievable stuff. Unreal. I'm going to go for a top 4 finish in the league because I'm Mr. Optimistic every single time. I'm going to go for an FA Cup win to take it to 15 trophies in that competition. League Cup will get knocked out in the first round by Portsmouth or something.
Why are you guys so afraid of the League Cup?
I just don't know. I just don't like it.
Birmingham have scarred us for life, man.
When it rolls around, and it feels bad saying that. Oh dear. And then what was the other one? Europa League. I mean, I'm going to go with Raph and say we'll win it. So I'm going for a treble because because 4th place is a trophy, as we all know. So yeah.
And the Community Shield. We're also going to win the Community Shield,
which is apparently going to be really weird because neither us or Liverpool are playing the first team. That's
right.
That.
And it's like tomorrow. It's like tomorrow, right? Like they're playing it tomorrow.
Yeah. Which is in 26 days, just under 4 weeks. Crazy stuff. So we've got 4 weeks until next season starts, which seems ridiculous when you think about it. But Adam, it's been a pleasure. Thank you ever so much for coming on, my friend. Tell people where they can find you and what you've been up to.
Adam, you can find me on Twitter at TFO Show or on YouTube at The Fifth Official. Subscribe there. Thank you.
And of course, you'll find Adam with Terry. You still doing Terry stuff, or we've moved on?
Yeah. Also on the Football Terrace there as well. So check that out and subscribe. Terry, everyone knows it.
You know he loves to wind people up on Twitter, so go and give those guys a follow. And of course, the last time I was on with Adam on the Football Terrace, we had a lot of fans telling us we were going to get stuffed by Man City. Yeah. Well, look how that turned out now. So lovely stuff there. Raph, tell people where they can find you and what you're up to at the moment. Any new music down the pipeline?
It's coming very soon, within the next month or so. Messy Music at Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. And just gonna start. Just look out for me.
Yeah, please do go check out Raph stuff. I mean, the last tune you put out, we're looking around some very relevant stuff of the period was excellent. So I really did enjoy that one for sure. So make sure you go check out all of their will be in the description. And John, obviously, after many, many months of peer pressure, we did get the Miami Arsenal podcast back. It was lovely to see it back. And of course, getting Claire on as well to break down the FA Cup final was great. But tell people where they can find you and anything else you're up with.
Yeah, so you can find the Arsenal Miami podcast at 305cast on Twitter. Where you can find us on Spotify, you can find us on iTunes, on SoundCloud, on Apple, whatever, any YouTube now, I guess. So it's all sorts of places, multifaceted, I guess. So
good words, love that.
Cool, mate.
Tier 3 vocab, teachers coming out now.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. And finally, just want to give a big thank you to our expert members. Of course, we've got our TGT members, our pro members, but our expert members who are really helping with the massive support of the channel and getting used to our exclusive content. Robert, Abdullah, Root Cause, Grass, Afnan, Clarifies, Amir, Ashwin, Owen, Mike, Carl, Gary, Matt from Dull Square to Where, Olisola, Glenn, Mosaic, PMHK, Brian, Robles and Jared Carver, a couple of new ones in there this week. Thank you ever so much, guys, for your continued support on the channel. We will be back tomorrow to look ahead to the new season, which starts exceptionally quickly. You can follow us over on Twitter at the Gooner Talk TV, where there's always debates going on and some great stuff. But it's been a real pleasure to speak to you and cover the Arsenal throughout this season. But yeah, it's great. We've won the FA Cup. It's fantastic, and we love it. And we love you guys too. And as always, up the Arsenal.